think your microphone's on the ground. So once you get over here, if you want to pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. I'm on fire!
I'm actually on the floor.
I just told you.
Verbs. Are we gonna go with shooting?
Shooting ropes.
Yeah. Thank you so much for shooting ropes from the Awesome Drone Show.
God, if you're shooting ropes for us, please don't tell us.
Also get some therapy as well.
I mean, it's very flattering, but...
Thank you so much for marching on over here to the Awesome Padrone Show. We just saw the new Civil War movie directed by Alex Garland.
Yeah, and it's definitely not the Marvel Civil War between Iron Man and Captain America.
Yeah, probably the worst thing about this movie is like they weren't in there the whole time. Like,
I don't know. I guess they forgot that those characters existed.
Yeah, they had Kristen Dunst. But no, we just saw Civil War directed by Alex Garland. This is a movie that has been heavily anticipated for a lot of people. I've been seeing really good reviews about it. So walking in, I had high hopes for it. I didn't know exactly what to expect though coming into it, because I honestly don't know if I saw a full trailer for this, to be honest.
Yeah, I know I saw clips. I mean, obviously, I'm a fan of like Alex Garland. He made like Ex Machina and he wrote 28 Days Later.
Yeah.
And then he made Annihilation. Mm-hmm. He made Men, which I didn't love, but it was weird. And I like weird movies.
Yeah.
I know they had released like maps of like the different factions. And I remember like when they released that, it showed like Texas and California were on the same side. Like everybody was talking about like how in the world are Texas and California on the same side of anything, let alone a civil war? Because Texas and California are like the most opposite states that you can think of in the United States.
Exactly, and like a lot of Texans hate Californians, and vice versa, and all that stuff. So, I didn't really know what to expect from this, but I will say, like, what I got out of this was not really what I was expecting out of it. Yeah,
it's a very different kind of movie. Yeah. I guess like the focus of the movie, I guess I should say, was very different than what I was expecting.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are probably going to go into this movie expecting it to have some political side of things.
Yeah, especially considering this is coming out during an election year for the United States. So it's like Civil War movie during an election year. I wonder what's gonna be about. And I was kind of worried that it's gonna get a little bit too preachy.
Yeah, exactly. But like after watching this movie, it's weird how and I won't say weird, but like it's very interesting and honestly really cool that it doesn't really take a side of the political spectrum. At the very least, the popular political spectrum that we all know, for Republican, Democrat,
Yeah, it's honestly pretty politically detached for the most part for this movie, because like they don't even really care to really fully explain what the Civil War is even really about.
Yeah,
it's mostly just focused on these main characters who are like journalists and photographers that are traveling through this war-torn United States.
Yeah, exactly.
Trying to get to Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
That's pretty much like the whole focus of the movie.
Yeah.
It's just them reacting to America in a war.
Yeah.
It's not focused on why the war started or the different movements that are happening during the war. It's just these characters that are traveling through trying to get to the Washington D.C. to interview the president.
Yeah, exactly. And for some people that may be a little bit of a turn off, because I think a lot of people do like, well, for instance, like A Quiet Place, right? A lot of people were really turned off by like we didn't see how the aliens got here or something like that, which I thought was a really kind of dumb complaint. But a lot of people, but the same thing here, if you're kind of going into this wondering, I wonder how Texas and California got on the same, I wonder how this war even started. You're not really going to get any of that. That's not the point of the movie. And honestly, from the point of the movie, it would have, at some point, may have been a little distracting, because it's kind of just trying to throw you into it, and it's trying to just focus on these characters and nothing more. And whenever going over also what we're saying a while ago, has politically detached, obviously there's the most basic of idea of what what politics is, maybe, like there's a war going on, obviously. and it does tell a nice, but cautionary tale about what the very possibility of what a country, especially this day and age, where how we are so really at odds with each other politically. Who knows? Maybe what if that happens one day? This could very well be the thing. It won't be a clean split. It'll be very violent.
And like we were explaining, I will admit, like towards the beginning of the movie, like first quarter of the movie, for me at least, it did get kind of hard to get attached to the movie in general, because it was different than what I was expecting, and it didn't really give like an explanation for what the Civil War is about, what the different sides were fighting for, and all that, for the most part. Mm-hmm. So it kind of did get hard for me to get attached to the story at the beginning. But then once I saw what the movie was kind of going for, like you're saying, like just showing like a cautionary tale, showing America in like this terrible state and showing what humanity can go, the limits that humanity can drop down to once you get into this war state. And then these characters, once you get to the character arcs that these characters, the main characters go through, then that's when I started liking it. Yeah. But I will say the first portion was kind of hard to get attached to it, but then I did eventually get to.
Yeah, I do think this is definitely probably a movie that's gonna be better on second viewing, because or if you're ready for it, if you're expecting that, which I think it's a good idea to probably read reviews or watch reviews about this movie, because then you'll know what you're kind of getting yourself into. I do think this movie will probably be better a second watch, because I know what I'll be getting myself into. And there's a lot of good things about this movie, because honestly, I love this movie. I really did. I will say, starting off with the acting is fantastic. Yeah, the whole cast is great. Kristen Stewart, man.
Yeah, I affected you. The whole time we've been talking about this movie, on the drive home, and then before we started filming this video, every time I try to mention Kristen Stewart,
You said
Kirsten Dunst is just now Kristen Stewart. They're the same person now.
Corporate needs you to find the differences between this picture and this picture. They're the same picture.
Yeah, every time I try to mention Kirsten Dunst, I kept saying Kristen Stewart. Their first names aren't even the same. It's Kirsten and Kristen.
Yeah, and Kirsten Dunst honestly does really good. I'm not gonna lie, I really haven't seen her in a movie in a bit. I can't remember the last movie I saw her in. I know, like, obviously, like Spider-Man 3, but like, I'm trying to remember I've seen her in a movie since then. To be honest,
she was in Hidden Figures.
There you go.
There you go.
No, don't get me wrong. I know she's been in a lot. I'm not saying she hasn't been in anything. I'm not saying she hasn't been in anything since Spider-Man 3 or Hidden Figures. I'm saying I personally haven't watched her in anything in a bit. So I know that I've been hearing about how great of an actress she is in some of her last movies. Like, I know she was in what is that? Not the Battle of the Dog. The
Power of the Dog. I saw that one too. That was a pretty good one too.
I didn't see that. So I haven't really seen her in a movie a bit. So seeing her in this movie, and since it's been a while since I've seen her in a movie, really seeing her acting is very good. And honestly, everybody in this movie is really good. Wagner Moura, I think. I'm pretty sure I haven't seen him in anything live action. You told me later he plays
the wolf in Puss in Boots: The Lost Wish.
Pick it up. Pick it up.
Which came out 2 years ago, I think. That's the only thing I've seen him in. Well, I mean, seen him in. Technically, I didn't see him in that. I just heard him. I think that's the only thing I've really known him from.
No, he's really good in this. He kind of plays more of the comedy relief in this movie, but whenever he needs to put in those dramatic moments, he does them really good.
Yeah, which, now that you mentioned that, I just want to mention, I mean, no spoilers obviously, but it's in the trailer. It's a quick clip from the trailer. The scene with Jesse Plemons.
There's some kind of misunderstanding here. What? Well, you're American, okay? Okay. What kind of American are you? You don't know?
That scene is honestly when I started loving this movie.
Yeah.
Like, once that scene happened, from that scene on, I love this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, the beginning, I liked it. But like I said earlier, like, it kind of was kind of hard for me to really, like, get attached to the story and all that. But then once that scene happened with Jesse Plemons and then onwards, I loved it. Because that scene with Jesse Plemons was so intense.
Yeah.
Like, it was like super intense.
Yeah.
It's probably one of my favorite scenes of the entire movie, honestly.
That scene was really good. And Jesse Plemons is a great actor.
Honestly, I'm glad that he's getting more roles and all that. And I mean, he plays a similar role in this movie than that he played in Breaking Bad, to where, like, this evil guy. But, like, I'm glad he isn't typecast. He has more roles other than this.
Yeah.
But then he can still play this role to where it's, like, really good. And it's also funny because him and Kristen... I was about to say Kristen Stewart again. It's funny because him and Kirsten Dunst are actually married in real life. So it's kind of funny to see them in this movie, which they are also both in Power of the Dog as well.
Yeah.
But so it's cool to see them starring movies together.
And then going on to other actors, Kaylee Spaney, was her name was. She plays this girl who really wants to be a journalist, and so she goes onto this trip with them. I really hope that she gets more roles after this because she's really good in it. She is really good. She plays off some really subtle acting because she's a girl who hasn't experienced anything in regard. Well, she's experienced some stuff because she's in the middle of a civil war. So experienced more than us, but she hasn't experienced even the more darker sides.
Yeah,
of
like
the Civil
firsthand
War.
and everything.
Yeah, even those more darker sides of the Civil War. And so going through this, sure, she has these moments where she's showing actual fear, but there's moments where has very nice subtle acting, especially she has an arc in this movie, and seeing her at the beginning her acting and seeing her by the end of the movie her acting is completely different.
She honestly has probably the biggest arc in this movie, so she has to do a lot of the I won't say heavy lifting because everybody's doing great, but she has to put in a lot of work in this movie.
And speaking of the arcs, and I think we're gonna probably have like a spoiler section in this video later on to go more into detail on this. There's two people in this movie. There's some people in this movie that are arcs, right? They're like parallel arcs, and they're so cool because they're kind of moving in opposite directions throughout the movie. And I just think there's a lot of lines that are said that come into play later on in the movie, like a few times, and it plays really well with those characters. And I think that's one really cool thing about this movie is, like we were talking about a while ago, this is not a movie that goes into the deep political aspects of this war. It's a movie about some journalists that are trying to basically go from one point to another during a civil war, and you're focusing on these characters, and you're focusing on their arc, you're focusing on their changes. And so that was a really interesting choice for me, and I felt like it paid off like really well.
And I also want to just give huge praises to the set designers and all that, and the sound effects, the sound designers and special effects in general, because every time they showed like an actual like war zone in this movie, it just felt so real, so authentic. Like, especially like the gunshots and, well, obviously the explosions felt real, but then especially like the gunshots. Each gunshot felt impactful.
Yeah,
there wasn't just like an action like gunshots like all over the place. Like each gunshot felt like an explosion.
Yeah.
It just felt so meaningful.
In Dolby, but
that helped too. So if you can see it in Dolby, definitely helped that because our like seats were like shaking like crazy every time there's a gunshot. So that definitely helped. But I mean, I've seen a lot of action movies with gunshots in Dolby, so it's even more than your usual action scene whenever there's gunshots. It just felt like it literally felt like the first half of this movie when they're just like going through like these bouncing between these different war zones. Yeah, it honestly did feel like a video journal
Yeah.
Like an actual video journal that we're just like witnessing like on screen, like somebody like almost like a documentary without the talking heads, to where it's just like showing an actual war zone.
Yeah.
So I do want to give praise for that, because like one of the most authentic like war zones I've seen in a movie, one of them at least, and the sets also look like war zones as well, even though there's even like a football stadium. I mean, it was like a high school football stadium, but each time they went to like a different stop, it looked like a war zone.
Yeah.
It just looked really run down. There's graffiti everywhere.
Yeah.
It just like looked like an actual place that had been torn down through war.
Yeah. And speaking on that, I do think there's a really cool scene when they're like going through a town. And it was like the only part that didn't look like a war zone. And they're like, this is so weird. Like, what's going on here?
Right.
And they like ask someone, they're like, oh, we know, we just don't get involved in all that.
Are you guys aware there's like a pretty huge civil war going on all across America?
We just try to stay out.
And I thought that was a really cool little touch they did. Like, it makes sense that like, even if there's a war zone, it's not like the war is happening everywhere, you know?
Yeah, America's pretty big.
Yeah, so maybe there's these small towns that are actually just, maybe not participating, but nothing's happening there, and they're just going to keep it that way. They're going to keep it as if nothing's happening there because they don't want people to stress out in the town. Well, I thought it was a cool touch. Now, I do want to talk about spoilers real quick. So if you want to jump to our grades on this movie, you can go to this timestamp right here, but we're going to go in and talk about it right now. And that is probably my favorite aspect of this whole movie was, and I talked about earlier very, very briefly and vaguely, is that there's some parallel character arcs, and that is between Kirsten Dunst's character and Kaylee Spaney's character. Like I said, Kaylee Spaney is basically this girl, and you've seen the movie, so you know she's this girl that's a journalist, and she wants to kind of get in to get her started. You know, understand what this life's about, get her started and take pictures, learn how to take pictures with Kirsten Dunst, because Kirsten Dunst is like her hero, because Kirsten Dunst is this famous journalist in this world.
Right.
So she's doing this, and I think she tries to take a picture at one point, but she couldn't because she was just so scared. And it was just such a big deal for her, like, oh my goodness, like this is awful. And so Kirsten Dunst basically in some way or another says that, I can't remember the exact wording, but it's basically telling you need to detach yourself from what you're taking a picture of. She basically says something like, we don't think about it, we take the pictures so other people can think about it, or something like that, you know. And so basically telling her you need to detach yourself from this one, in a sense not care about the awful things that you're taking pictures of, so it doesn't affect you that bad,
Right.
you know. And so what's really cool throughout this, and I feel like maybe because Kirsten Dunst obviously doesn't want to care about this girl, but does. So I feel like what's happening in this movie is, because there's a girl here, that's kind of triggering Kirsten Dunst's care response in a sense, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. She's it's a different kind of environment that she's riding around with.
Yeah. And so she's never had to like fully care about one of the people and have complete fear for one of the people she's with. So that kind of triggers a care response in her. And so throughout this movie, you start seeing that she starts caring more and more, and the girl starts caring less and less. Yeah. And I think one of the coolest aspects about this is there's a part where Kaylee Spaney is like, if I were to get shot, would you take a picture of me? And Kirsten Dunst is like, what do you think? Basically saying, yeah, I'm going to take a picture of you. But later on in the movie, whenever Stephen McKinley Henderson, he dies. So he gets shot and he gets killed and dies. And Kirsten Dunst takes a picture of him, you know. And then it shows her, she goes through and she's looking at it and she decides to delete it. Kind of showing that she's starting to care more. Because before that, she would have taken a picture of it.
Right, she would have saved it.
Probably
put it in like a paper or something.
You know, had it published. But she deletes it, showing that she's starting to care more about the people she's with. But then, at the end of the movie, Kaylee Spaney, literally, Kirsten Dunst gets killed in front of her. And Kaylee Spaney is taking pictures of this. And kind of just gets... I love the way she kind of just sits up and registers what she just did, and like, okay, and gets up. I love that scene so much. and she keeps them.
Yeah, I also love how they didn't like play the audio of the gunshot. It just showed like the pictures of like Kirsten Dunst like falling.
Yeah.
It's obvious she got shot.
Yeah, because essentially the big part of that scene was the pictures being taken.
Exactly.
That was the big part of that. Is that now you have this girl who took pictures of this girl being, not only did she take pictures of this girl dead, she took pictures of her being killed.
Yeah, in the process.
Yeah. And almost almost purposely, because she got right there and she jumped and then shot it, so she started taking pictures.
Yeah. It can be argued that she jumped up there on purpose so that Kirsten Dunst would push her out of the way.
Yeah, exactly. And so she takes these pictures and is like, whatever. And I just thought that was such a cool aspect, such a cool thing to just throw in there. Just these two people that are having completely opposite arcs. And in a way, it might not even be so much as opposite as showing, or it is opposite arcs, but showing that this girl is now, this is kind of the path that Kirsten Stewart. This is kind of the path that Kirsten Stewart was led on as well, probably at one point as well. You know,
right.
Like I said, that's probably my favorite thing about this entire movie. I just thought that was such a cool aspect and so well written. I'm gonna say that Civil War is 88% awesome,
and I'm gonna say that Civil War is 85% awesome.
Well, guys, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, comment and let us know what you thought about Civil War.
And don't forget to follow us on social media. We have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and X. Twitter and X are the same thing. And TikTok, all at The Awesome Drone Show.
When you say, when people call it X, it sounds like we're making like a porn site.
Yeah, I know, honestly.
Yeah.
I just refer to it as Twitter still,
Yeah,
honestly.
don't forget to go to our Twitter, our OnlyFans.
Yeah. Hey, some people do normal stuff on OnlyFans.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
OnlyFans like advertise themselves as being like a normal website.
That's true. We can start posting on there. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching, and you will see us later. I don't know if it's like just a thing of like the fact that when we're kids we were just impatient, or if movies just seem like they're coming out a lot faster after they're like the trailers come out.
Honestly, yeah, I don't know if it's like time moves faster when you don't, which obviously that is the case, but
yeah,
because like I feel like teaser trailers would come out for movies and it would feel like years before the movie would come out.